Let me tell you something most men don't want to hear. Everyone's going to tell you it's impossible, that once she's gone forever, that you should move on, work on yourself, forget about her. But what they won't tell you, what most people don't even understand, is that the door doesn't always close forever. I've watched it happen again and again, not in theory, not in some online fantasy, but in real life, men broken, humiliated, and stripped of identity, rebuilding themselves into men women respect again. And when that transformation happens, 8 out of 10 times she returns. But by then, something interesting happens. The man she left is gone. Today, I'm going to tell you how that transformation works psychologically, emotionally, and strategically. Not to teach you how to get her back, but to teach you how to get yourself back. Because the truth is, when you become the kind of man who doesn't need her, she will either come back or you'll realize you don't want her anymore. 1. The real reason she left. Let's start with the brutal truth most men avoid. She didn't leave because of the other guy. She didn't leave because of her confusion or stress or space. She left because somewhere along the way you lost your position. Not position in her phone or in her heart. Position in the psychological dynamic of the relationship. You went from being the center of gravity to orbiting around her emotions. From being the leader to seeking permission. From being stable to being reactive. In simple terms, you lost frame. Every relationship has an invisible structure. Feminine energy moves. Masculine energy anchors. When you're grounded, when you hold your boundaries, your mission, your composure, she can relax into her feminine chaos without fear. But the moment you start chasing her moods, the moment you start negotiating for affection, she senses it. And here's the key: attraction doesn't die because she stops loving you. It dies because she stops respecting you. 2. The shift. Every breakup starts long before the words are spoken. There's a quiet, almost imperceptible moment when her emotional attachment detaches. One day she looks at you and something feels off. The spark is gone. The respect has evaporated. But she won't tell you this outright. She'll say she's tired, she's confused, she needs space, and like most men, you'll take those words literally. You'll try to fix her stress, accommodate her moods, and in doing so, you'll chase the very thing that's running away. The more emotional you get, the more she withdraws. The more you plead, the colder she becomes. You can't reason attraction back into existence. One of my clients learned this the hard way. His girlfriend of 3 years started acting distant, evasive, strange. Eventually, he found out she was seeing someone else, a co-worker. When he confronted her, she didn't apologize. She attacked, called him controlling. Insecure, she flipped the script. That's not malice, it's self-protection. She had to justify her betrayal to herself, so she rewrote the story. With him as the villain, that's how the human mind defends itself from guilt. And here's where most men fall apart. They beg, they fight, they text novels, they try to prove their worth. What they don't realize is that every reaction confirms her decision. Every outburst, every plea, every desperate message tells her, I was right to leave. He's not in control. 3. The strategy, psychological withdrawal. Here's what we did differently. After one final message, short, dignified, and final, he disappeared. Sent flowers with a note that read, I wish you happiness. Then he went completely silent. No texts, no calls, no stalking, no checking in. This wasn't a game. It was a reclamation of sovereignty. You see, contrast drives human psychology. She expected chaos, fights, tears, drama. Instead, she got peace and silence. That contrast creates dissonance. Her brain can't reconcile it. Suddenly, the man she thought she understood, the emotional, predictable, desperate man, is gone. And when a woman can't predict you anymore, she can't control the narrative. That's when curiosity begins to grow again. 4. What happens in her mind? Let's analyze her psychology post-breakup. The first stage is euphoria, freedom, validation. She's being told she's brave for choosing herself. The new guy seems exciting. He's a symbol of everything you weren't, or so she thinks. But it never lasts. Within weeks, cracks begin to show. The new man, the symbol of freedom, starts revealing flaws. The chemistry fades, the excitement turns into routine. The fantasy can't compete with the stability she abandoned. And here's what happens next: the idealization loop. Human memory is biased. Over time, the mind erases the pain and amplifies the pleasure. The fights blur, the laughter stays sharp. She begins to remember your strengths, your moments of depth, your loyalty. Suddenly, the grass on the other side looks patchy. And while all this unfolds, you're silent, absent, unreachable. That absence creates what psychologists call the unfinished story effect. The mind cannot let go of what it cannot understand. When you vanish with grace, not bitterness, not anger, but composure, you leave the story open-ended. She needs closure. She needs resolution. And that need pulls her back. 5. The silence period. 6 weeks later, my client's ex began viewing his stories again. A like here, a mistaken text there. Then a message, "Hey, how have you been?" He ignored it for 2 weeks. That silence was not arrogance, it was strength. Every non-response builds pressure. Every day of indifference amplifies her uncertainty. By the 2-month mark, the new relationship was collapsing. Nostalgia had taken hold. Guilt was whispering. The memory of his stability had regained weight. When she finally reached out in earnest, she wasn't coming from power. She was coming from need, the need for resolution, for reassurance, for the man who no longer needed her. 6. Rebuilding masculine authority. Here's the core principle. No contact is not waiting, it's working. You're not sitting by the phone hoping she texts. You're rebuilding yourself into a man who doesn't require her validation. You hit the gym. You move your career forward. You reconnect with purpose. This isn't a performance. If it's fake, she'll sense it immediately. This has to be transformation born out of discipline, not manipulation. When she comes back, and statistically she probably will, she must meet a man she doesn't recognize. The man she left was reactive, emotional, uncertain. The man standing before her is composed, focused, grounded. That's not a pose, that's evolution. And it's that evolution, not a text, not a tactic, that reignites respect. 7. Redefining success. Success is not getting her back. Success is becoming a man who could have anyone and being at peace if he ends up with no one. That's emotional sovereignty. That's masculine success. The paradox is this: the less you need her, the more she needs you, because the energy of need repels. The energy of self-possession attracts. 8. The responsibility of frame. A relationship collapses when a man loses frame, when he begins following instead of leading, reacting instead of directing. But that loss of frame isn't a permanent wound. It's an invitation to rebuild authority. When my client met his ex again, 2.5 months later, he didn't rush. She sent long messages, apologies, explanations. He waited a full day before replying with 3 words: "I need time." When they finally met, the dynamic had inverted. She was explaining herself. He was evaluating. The same woman who once called him insecure was now seeking his approval. That's what frame restoration looks like. It's not dominance, it's balance. It's when your worth no longer hinges on her opinion. 9. The psychological mechanics. Let's break down why this works. When you disappear, you create scarcity. When you grow, you create intrigue. When you stay calm, you create safety. You reverse every polarity that drove her away. She left because you were predictable, now you're a mystery. She left because you were reactive, now you're grounded. She left because you were desperate, now you're detached. And that detachment isn't coldness, it's confidence. Women are not drawn to emotional chaos. They're drawn to the man who can contain it, to the one who can feel deeply but act rationally, to the one who leads himself before he leads anyone else. That's masculine energy in its purest form, direction, without dependency. 10. Control versus emotion. Your emotions will lie to you. They'll tell you to chase, to plead, to fix. But the moment you obey emotion, you surrender power. Control doesn't mean suppression, it means awareness. Feel everything, but act from principle, not impulse. In every test, every silence, every message she sends, ask yourself, am I reacting or am I leading? If you're reacting, you're losing ground. If you're leading, you're rebuilding respect. 11. The timeline. Here's the pattern I've seen repeat with surgical precision. Weeks 1-2, she's relieved, enjoying her freedom. Weeks 3-4, the excitement fades. She begins to wonder. Weeks 5-8, nostalgia, guilt, comparison. The memory loop begins. After 2 months, she's watching, reaching, testing. But this only happens if you've maintained total silence. Not partial, total. No checking her stories, no texting, no happy birthday messages, no stalking. You become a ghost, not to haunt her, but to liberate yourself. 12. The return. Eventually she'll reach out. It's almost inevitable. When she does, wait. A full day at least. Be brief, calm, positive. Don't bring up the past. Don't ask questions. Stay in motion. If she wants to meet, make her wait a week. Not to play games, but because your time is valuable now. When you meet, look sharp but relaxed. Speak less. Listen more. Be positive but not eager. Let her feel the change. If she apologizes, accept it once and move on. If she asks for another chance, tell her you'll think about it. Because you should. And when you walk away from that meeting, whether she's back or not, you've already won. Because you've done what 90% of men will never do. You've mastered yourself. 13. Beyond reconciliation. Sometimes she'll come back and you'll realize you don't want her anymore. Sometimes she won't come back at all. Both outcomes are victories. Because the true reward isn't reconciliation, it's reconstruction. You've rebuilt discipline, direction, and control. You've learned how to lose without losing yourself. That's what separates men who grow from men who crumble. 14. The final lesson. Let me end with this. A relationship is not a place to find yourself. It's a place to express yourself. And you can't express what you haven't built. Most men make the mistake of making the woman their purpose. That's emotional suicide. A woman is drawn to a man with a mission, a man who chooses her, not needs her. When you reclaim that, you stop chasing love and start commanding respect. And ironically, that's when love returns because it's returning to strength, not weakness. So if you're sitting there heartbroken, confused, convinced she's gone forever, understand this. You're not fighting to get her back. You're fighting to get yourself back. And once you do, you'll never chase again. Because you'll finally understand you are the prize, you are the frame, and you are the man she never truly forgot.